We are now live. This is episode 4 of the Uncertainty Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Leffler. And today we're going to start off this with a little bit of a quote, as we've done in the past. But it's not the typical quote. This is a shout out to my friends over at the Millennials in Trucking podcast. It's a little bit of a poem, and it goes a little bit like this: Half a bee, philosophically, must ipso facto half not be. But half the bee has got to be a vis-a-vis its entity. Do you see? But can a bee be said to be or not to be an entire bee when half the bee is not a bee due to some ancient injury? That is from Monty Python in the beginning of the song Eric the Half a Bee. It's a pretty interesting thing, and I figured it would be fun to begin the program with that. Now, I have to be candid with all of you. This is still new to me. Our first episode was with Judge Rosemary Aquilina. Our second episode was with Dr. Michael James DeMarco. Our third episode was with our pastor, Brandon Stern, over at New Covenant Bible Church. And so I began wrestling. Wrestling. What do we do next? What can beat those three people? And when I said to myself, I said, if you're going to be wrestling, why not get a professional wrestler? That's what we have today. Today's guest is Gunnar Miller. Gunnar is not just a podcaster and a VP of sales for a very interesting freight brokerage company called 12 Point Logistics. He's also a professional wrestler. Now, I have to also be candid. Gunnar and I have a pretty famous challenge in terms of an ongoing dispute. Now, I don't like to dispute with people that I admire, but Gunnar and I have a little bit of a controversy. It has gone through LinkedIn and it has gone through Twitter. And I have to be very candid. I do feel a little bit of remorse and trepidation bringing Gunnar in. But let me defend myself for a moment. Now, when I grew up, I had a father who believed that we all had to have a full-time job in the summer and we had to have sports when we're in school. A full-time job is not enough typically. So the way we worked was if you're in high school, you're doing a sport or you're working and sometimes theater. And so during the summers, I had two jobs. I was a toy store manager at KB Toys. And the other thing I did was I cleaned ponds at the Chicago Botanic Gardens. Now, when I cleaned ponds at the Chicago Botanic Gardens, I wore rubber pants up to my waist and I was in water. And usually it was about anywhere from 80 to the mid 90s and very humid. And I'll even tell you, in season 7, episode 3 of Dirty Jobs, Mike Rowe did my job, which was cleaning ponds at the Chicago Botanic Gardens. That episode is called Doomsday Seed Bunker. So my reservation to saunas is about how comfortable they are. And that is to say, they're not comfortable at all. So when Gunnar Miller posted very nicely, I will say, about saunas and the value of saunas, I had to object. I don't want to be hot. I want to be cold. And so I'm excited to bring Gunnar on and have him talk a little bit about saunas. We'll have a whole lot of other things we'll talk about. But obviously, I know that I'm not making any friends with people who are pro sauna. Now, there's a quick comment here. The Monty Python quote, nice introduction. Thank you so much. I love Python. It's a great bit of sketch comedy. For those of you who like sketch comedy, I highly recommend the new season of Kids in the Hall on Amazon right now. But without any further ado, let me add Gunnar to the stream. Gunnar Miller, how are you, my friend?
What's up, bro? What it do?
I am so excited to have you here. What I love about your background is that there's this piece of improv and theater. And that's what I always found so interesting about wrestling. But you are so much more than that. So if you can, give the audience, what do you do and how long you been doing it?
Man, do we have like 2 hours? Are we good? Or what we got? So
you got as much
whatever
time
we
as
want.
you want, brother. As much time
Hey,
as
man,
you want.
first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. It was an honor to have you on mine, first of all. But to be able to actually come on and be a guest, I love to answer questions. Nobody ever lets me talk. I'm always the one having to ask questions. So I'd love to talk about myself. It'd be fantastic. Yeah, man, just born and raised Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm 31 years old. My whole family's here. Like literally, my entire family's here. I'm a big family guy. My sister went to University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. She's a Hall of Fame softball player. So I've been in her shadow my entire life. She's about 16 years older than me, 17, depending on what month of the year it is. I always say 17. She says 16. I don't know if that's a girl guy thing. But yeah, so there's that. And then I followed her footsteps. I went to UTC as well to play college football. I played 5 years there. I'm not walked on. I got a scholarship. I redshirted my first year, and then I started 4 years, became a team captain in my fifth year, and we won the SoCon championship for the first time since the 1980s, which was really cool. And then that team went on to win 2 more SoCon championships and make it to the playoffs 3 times in that era. So I was at a time where Chattanooga really turned the tide in football. So that was cool to be a part of, to be a captain and to be a part of that whole thing. And then, man, in June of 2014, I jumped into logistics at the exact same time I jumped into pro wrestling, literally the same week. So wow. June 2014, I had my WWE tryout, and then the next Monday, I started at Lipsy Logistics. The president of that company, Johnny Jones, gave me an opportunity, and he told me that he would let me travel whenever I needed to do the independent pro wrestling thing to chase my dream. And he was the only person to give me that opportunity. Enterprise Rent-A-Car, 3 pharmaceutical companies, and Access America all turned me down just because if I would have had a chance to get the WWE tryout and get signed, they didn't want to take the chance in training me and then me getting signed and then me leaving after getting trained. He was the only person to do it. I was loyal to him up until February 2020, which I'm still loyal to him. And then I got the opportunity to come over here to 12 Point Logistics, which was a startup coming into their second season, as we like to call it, because we relate everything to sports around here. So in our second season, they brought me on, and here we are. We're a quarter into our first season and doing really well. And I'm excited to be on the show, man. So what's up?
Okay, so here's a question I have for you. So people's captain, this is something I've seen you talk about before. You and I talked about it on your broadcast as well. I'd love to just get a little bit more background. How did you become the people's captain?
Oh, man, this is where you embarrass me for being dumb. All right. So I've always been a guy that could talk my way out of a situation usually. So I've always had good grades, man. When I was coming through high school, honor roll, star roll, I think I had like a 3.8 or something. There's only like 200 people in my class. I was like number 6, and I cheated off the first 5. I was really good at that. And then I got to college, and I did really well my first whole year. Like the first whole year I had it was like either A's and B's. So I had a 3.5 or 4.0, whatever, 3.8, whatever it is, first year, because I don't really remember much because I drank a lot after that year. And then my second year when I actually started, so my redshirt freshman year where I got to play, I started playing after the 3rd game of the season. One of the guys got hurt. I came in. I was the defensive player of the game that game against Western Carolina, my first game ever that I started. And then I took the starting job. I played the next 5 games, and then I broke my neck for the first time. Broke my neck, and I lost my arm. Literally, so I have to tell this because it gets to the point of having bad grades, so I go into like a depression for the first time. So I break my neck. Check this out. Sounds a lot cooler than what it was. I like to say cooler.
It doesn't sound cool. Actually, it sounds awful.
Well, no, I'm going to say why. Okay, so I missed a tackle against Elon at home in Chattanooga. I got up. The play was already made, and I hit the pile because I was pissed. When I hit the pile, I got a stinger, which is what I thought. When I got the stinger, my arm went out. Well, that was not uncommon. If you ever had a stinger, I'm sure people listening that played football have had stingers. Just like a burning sensation. Well, it wasn't uncommon. So I figured I'd play the next play. I don't have an arm, but hopefully if somebody comes my way, I can get them off of me and make a play or whatever. Arm didn't come back. So I tap my helmet. I go off to the sideline. I'm standing next to my defensive coordinator, Adam Fuller, who is now the defensive coordinator for Florida State University. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, it'll come back in a second. I'm good. He's like, all right, well, let me know, because we're light on linebackers. Like, we only had 5 linebackers, and you play with 3. So now we're down to 4 with me out. So that happens, and then it doesn't come back. Okay, second quarter doesn't come back. We go into halftime, doesn't come back. And when I say it doesn't come back, like, imagine this. Like, the test is your arms are straight. You pick one arm up. You can do that. And then you try to pick the other arm up, and you can't. It won't fire. It won't activate, so it wouldn't pick up. So halftime, I get 2 steroid shots in the booty of whatever those were. And then I come back out, doesn't work. So they take my pads off of me in the 3rd quarter. They say I'm out for the game. And then weeks later, my arm doesn't come back. So now I'm going to specialists. Now I've went to everything. I've went to neck specialist, shoulder specialist, spine specialist. They tried to diagnose me with spinal stenosis. And then they were like, well, no, you don't have that. I mean, it's kind of small, but not really. There's nothing there. And then they checked my neck to see if it was messed up. They get CAT scans, all this stuff. And then finally, I got to this one nerve specialist, and they put these needles in me, and then they started They would touch them, and it would make a noise if it was working, or not make a noise if it wasn't, and none of it made a noise for anything that was like in my, I guess they call it your brachial plexus. Anybody that's like a anatomy expert or a muscle guys,
we can ask the doctor next time he's on.
Yeah, it's like brachial plexus, and it's a spider web of nerves in your shoulder that connects everything from your back and your head up to your arms, right? So my shoulder, my bicep, my tricep, and like part of my forearm was off. It atrophied, like it stopped working. So imagine doing that. All you've done your whole life is playing sports. You've always been big. I was like, 220, 225 pounds. I've always liked to work out. And now, like, this arm sleeve is like tight, and my other arm sleeve that's messed up is like, it's just atrophying. Like, I can't pick it up. Imagine this. To wash my hair, I would pick my arm up to wash my hair because my hand would work. But if I got too far off to the side of my head, my arm would just fall. If I was driving, if I got too far over to the left or to the right, my hand would just fall off the steering wheel. So that was a frustrating time in my life. And then I started drinking for the first time. Started partying. I'd never done any of that in college. And I stopped worrying about my grades so much because I couldn't play football. I didn't have my grade. I was just in a bad place. Yeah. And I failed, I don't know. I had 3 math classes, like stats, algebra, and accounting on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8, 9, and 10, back to back to back. My worst subject is like that type of math at that time. So I failed all those classes. I passed like public speaking and gym or something, or psychology or whatever it was. So I was barely eligible to play. I had to have 2 more credits to be eligible to play for the next season. So I had to go through that. But during that whole process, fast forward, we get to my junior year, and now I've been like battling out of a hole this entire time to get my grades back up. They still weren't great. My team elected me team captain. Like the players elected me team. That's how we did it. It was a vote by the team. They elected me team captain. My coach vetoed it. And he said, no, your grades are not ready. You're not ready to be team captain. This is not just on the field. This is off the field. And that really stuck home with me. And he vetoed it. So my team knew I was a big Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan, big pro wrestling fan.
People's champ. That's right.
The people's captain. And
That's
ever since
fantastic.
then, it was hashtag the people's captain. And then that next year, my grades, I did always, from that point on, I was elected team captain my senior year. We won the SoCon championship. I was dubbed around town as the people's captain. I was introduced as the people's captain. I gave all the pep talks, all the rallies, all the media. And then, that kind of parlayed in my wrestling career, the people's captain. And I've been wrestling as it. And then I was like, listen, it's not just wrestling. Like, that's me, man. Like, people are going to get me for who I am. I'm not going to try to come off professional just to be professional. I'm going to give you me. I'm going to give you 100% authentic, genuine version of Gunnar Miller. And with Gunnar Miller, that comes with the people's captain. And now the people's captain's on LinkedIn talking to the armchair attorney.
Well, we got a comment here from TJ. Freight Friends, let's go. Gunnar for arms of the year. Those are some pretty big arms. I won't disagree with you. Yeah, I think we share this. We share the adversity of college athletics. So I didn't get hurt. I was a track runner. I was a sprinter. And I was a sprinter at Western Michigan, Mid-American Conference Division I, and I was okay. But no one wanted to watch adult men run in ovals. And so one fateful night in December, they called the indoor team, the outdoor team, cross-country team, and the girls synchronized skating. And they said, guys and gals, no one watches you. We're going to call it done. And that was the end of it. And then I had the chance to do some walk-on stuff, but I lost the passion for it. And I realized I was never going to get to that level of where can I be a professional runner? And that was just never going to happen. And so it's the challenge. But what I love about your story, and I think, and Monty King here, I love this. Authenticity is so refreshing. Adversity builds authenticity. So you then make the decision. You go, okay, I'm not going to be a professional football player. Why did you think about wrestling? What made you gravitate towards that?
Yeah, great question. So, and I love to tell this story. This is probably my favorite one. When I was a redshirt sophomore, we played Nebraska. First game of the season, 97,000 people. They've been having sellouts forever, man. It was awesome. Got to play against Toby Gerhart, who played in the league. Had a big hit against him on the goal line stand, man. That was awesome. I got to play against Taylor Martinez. He was a great quarterback. He juked me out and put me on ESPN, so that was great. It was awesome to get to play that game. And I painted my face up that game for the first time with the Warrior war paint, which I used to do that in high school. I was a little nervous doing it in college to see, because I was a young kid. But that next year, when I kind of got my street cred, I started growing my hair out. I had feathers in my hair like Native Americans. I was that wild guy when I started drinking at this point. Beard, that's when the beard came for the first time, and it was like all patchy. And then I wore the face paint. Well, after the game, I played a really good game. And our media team came to me and did an article about why I wore the face paint. And one of the quotes in the face paint from Coach Russ Huseman, my head coach, they asked him about it. They said, "What do you think about Gunner's face paint?" And he goes, I don't care what he wears. I don't care if he wears a tutu, as long as he goes out there and gets in his position, tackles people. Right. I don't care what he does." So I had the permission to do it. Well, that article got out, and it was tagged with the Ultimate Warrior. There was two people that inspired the paint. Steve Latimer from the movie The Program from 1993. The Program. It was Halle Berry's first movie. So James Caan's also the coach, but Steve Latimer painted his face up, big jack dude. And then Ultimate Warrior because of his energy, his passion, pro wrestling, running out there, everything. So that was in the article. Well, the Ultimate Warrior was kind of coming back to the internet at this point, and he's starting up his YouTube channel. So he found it and just commented on it, like just retweeted it, tagged me in it on Twitter. Now I'm getting more followers on Twitter. He's like, giving me permission to wear the war paint. He's happy that he was able to inspire somebody from the stuff that he did back in the late 80s and early 90s. And, that was really cool. And then I got a message on Twitter. "Hey, man, this is Warrior. Can I have your phone number?" And I was like, well, I'm getting catfished now. There's no way this is the Ultimate Warrior. But, hey, it's a number. Who cares? I'll just give it to him, see what happens. So I give my number to the guy. And then, I get a phone call. I'm sitting in my dorm room, Bowling Apartments, Chattanooga, Tennessee. We called it the Concrete Jungle. It was terrible. I'm sitting there watching my TV. We're playing NCAA football with my boys, Nick Davidson. And I get a phone call from Arizona and New Mexico. And I'm like, this is weird. I answer it. "Gunner, Warrior here." I'm like, oh my God, this is the Ultimate Warrior. So I go into my dorm room, shut the door. Like all my buddies are out there, like with their ears to the door, like trying to listen to the conversation. I'm trying not to laugh. And he's like, "Hey man, I looked you up on Google. I saw you're a college football player. That's really cool. Thank you for, believing in the Ultimate Warrior. It makes me feel good." Like really cool, very down to earth guy. He didn't have to do that. And then he was like, "Is it okay if I keep up with you and stay in contact with you and pretty much become a Mox fan?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So man, I'm not lying to you. You can ask every single one of my teammates. The rest of the time I played at UTC, every week before a game, he would call me, check on me, make sure everything was good, ask how my parents were doing, ask how everybody was. And then he would send a hype up video, like an Ultimate Warrior promo to the team before our games.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. So that's what happened. And he asked me one day, he goes, "What do you think about professional football? Is that your plan?" And I said, this was, I was a senior. And I go, "Man, I'm beat up, a couple neck injuries. I'm realistic, 32 teams, 53 people per team. Probably not going to make it." He goes, "Okay, what about pro wrestling?" I go, "Well, there's less teams and less roster spots than there is in the NFL, and I've never even done it. I'm realistic." He goes, "Well, I'm the Ultimate Warrior, and I've got connections over there. Let me see what I can do." I was like, I didn't think another thing about it. The next week, I'm getting recruited by Gerald Briscoe, who was the head recruiter for college athletes in the WWE.
Wow.
Now, at that time, they had already set up my WWE tryout for December of 2013, which was my senior season, like the end of my senior season. We played App State in October at App State in Boone, North Carolina. It was on the goal line right before halftime. There was a play come my way. It was like a zone read, but the quarterback kept it. I'm the outside linebacker. I'm on the backside. I'm filling into the B gap right there. I meet him right in the hole. Tackle for loss. Both arms go out. Same injury happens again. This time, both arms go out. Doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Like I just can't use my arms.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, did you need surgery? No. It was hairline fractures on my C5, C6. It just shut my nerves off. I just couldn't do anything. So that happened.
No.
First time ever in my life, I couldn't pick myself up off the field because both my arms didn't work and I was face down. But I made a tackle for loss. My last play ever is a tackle for loss against App State. I'll take that. So I come off the sideline. Coach usually looks at me and goes, "Hey, man, you're done. Thank you."
Yeah.
So, of course, I get emotional at that point because we still have a couple games left when we win the SoCon that year, and I felt like I was letting my team down. But I was also hurting them because I was playing very injured. So that happened, and then there went the focus to wrestling. All I cared about was getting better for wrestling. I called them, "Hey, man, can I get the tryout?" Pushed to later date. They pushed it to June. I did spinal decompression from October through February. And then I trained at D1 Chattanooga, which is a sports training that Peyton Manning owned at the time.
Wow.
They sponsored my training all the way up in the June. Went to that, and then boom, pro wrestling.
That's incredible, man. That is absolutely incredible. Were you a fan of wrestling growing up? Is this something it was part of your
Yeah,
family?
yeah, man. So
Okay.
I started watching wrestling when I was probably about 7 or 8. I started watching wrestling during the Monday Night Wars, like 1997,
Yeah,
1998.
WCW versus WWE.
I
Whose
watched it
side
at
were
the
you
perfect
on?
time. Man, I was on both. So I was the kid that would sit there on the floor with my wrestlers, playing with my wrestlers with my dad,
Yeah.
watching this, with my shirt off, doing push-ups in between commercials because I wanted to be as big as the wrestlers on TV. And we'd flip back and forth from Monday Night Raw to Nitro.
Oh, that's incredible. I was a big fan. So I'm older than you. I'm 37, and I'll tell you, Gunner, it gets worse, man. Like it's so hard to be as old as I am. Like just putting on
Sure.
socks is a challenge I didn't even anticipate.
Yeah,
But
for
I had
sure.
a chance to watch some of your wrestling, and I loved the match with Matt Riddell, I think his name is,
Riddle,
and
Matt Riddle.
Riddle.
Yep.
And there are a couple questions I have. So one, there was your finishing move is called the CTE. Is that right? Is that the one of the moves?
Yes.
What is CTE? What is that all about? Describe that move to me.
Okay, so in wrestling, you want to. It's hard to talk about that move without talking about stuff before it. So when I first started wrestling, I'm a football player. I want wrestling to be as realistic as possible. I like the wrestling from the 70s, 80s, early 90s before it was known that it was staged or predetermined or fake.
Yeah.
It was slower, less acrobatical. Now it's all about like the moves you do. Back then it was about the story you told. You might
Yeah.
hold a headlock for 5 minutes. You might only throw one punch in a match and it was the bad guy doing it. So I wanted it to look like as real as possible. So I'm a football player.
I throw a
Go
score in
ahead.
there. DJ's got best is NWO with Sting, Kevin Nash, and Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and the Wolf Pack with Sting, Red Face Paint, by far the best. I will not disagree with that. I enjoyed the NWO days, but I'm sorry. Continue.
The best, I don't know. I can't disagree that it wasn't really good. The best, I don't know, but yeah, definitely good stuff. So then, man, for the most part, where was we at? What was we talking about right there?
You tell us.
Where
So
was we
you
going
tell
with
the
that?
story of the moves, and then how do you build up
Oh,
to
the
your
move.
finishing move?
So I wanted it to be as real as possible. So my first move ever, finishing move, was a spear, a tackle. Makes sense, right? I'm a Division I college linebacker. That should get people out of there. Well, as you think about pro wrestling as lower tier boxing, you're not going to fight the best wrestlers at the beginning as you're learning. You got to get to a level to where you need to take a chance to wrestle the better guys. So where I was wrestling in Rossville, it wasn't the best guys, but it was really good guys that would help me out. So we used a spear. Then we got to the point where I needed more than the spear. So maybe the spear didn't get the win, and I got beat by a guy because that move wasn't good enough. So I had to recreate another move to go on top of the spear. So after that, we went to the CTE. The CTE was when I became a bad guy and started wrestling in Atlanta, running a 3-town circuit. It was like Gainesville, Porterdale, and Monroe, Georgia, all surrounding Atlanta, Georgia. And I was down there every weekend, and I was a champ at all those places. I was the baddest guy in the state. I was wrestler of the year down there. I was the fastest. I was the fastest wrestler of the year in the state of Georgia. And you're talking about guys like Ric Flair, like Luthez, all the greats of all time. I was the fastest person to ever win wrestler of the year in the state of Georgia. I did it in 3 years. So I did that, and the CTE is the brain injury, right? So I come from football. You've got CTE, and the move is emulated off of a crackback block on a kickoff return. So the move that is not allowed anymore in the NFL, like the blind side hit, the hit stick. So what I would do is I would have them hit the ropes one way. I would hit the ropes the other way. So they're coming this way, and I'm coming this way. So it's the crackback block it's just a shoulder tackle, and then they would take their own bump. Like it was just me hit them, and then they would jump and fall. So it looked devastating like a crackback block, but really it wasn't that bad. So we called it the CTE because it gave them a concussion. They can't get up. I'm the bad guy, and that's how we went with it.
So I will go back on this a little bit. I watch this. I don't like you being a heel. I would be, if I was in the audience, and if you ever come to Chicago, I will be in that audience, and I would be cheering for you. How do you? What do you think of it? How does it? The mental processing of being a heel, is that difficult to have people yelling and jeering at you, or you're like, hey, this is a theater, this is a stage, this is not real? How does that impact you?
So nowadays wrestling is sport entertainment. Vince McMahon dubbed that the thing of it, but also it's pro wrestling. So, and it's always been that. It's just been called that. being a heel is okay. I don't mind being a heel. It's actually easier to be a heel because it's so much easier to get someone not to like you than it is to get someone to like you, even in real
Mm.
life, right? Like unless, if they don't know you, they probably automatically don't like you until they actually get to have a conversation with you and then they get to know you. Well, in pro wrestling, I can just go, "Hey, old lady, shut up," and she's not gonna like me. Like it's very like there was this one time I turned heel in Porterdale, Georgia when I won the championship, and there was this old lady there. She's at every show, man. Like she was one of those ladies. Like it was real to her. She would hit you with her purse. Like she hated the bad
Wow.
guys. Well, after my match, I turned bad. Now she hated me and she's yelling at me. And I just look at her, I was like, "Shut up, old man." And dude, just like lost her mind because she's this old lady. But anyway, so it's just easy to be a bad guy. Now, here's the problem. You got to be careful because most people have a stage name. Most people wrestle as like, say their name is Jeff. They might wrestle as like, you know, Brad, whatever, Brad Newman, or they'll change their name to not be who they are. Well, I had such a following with my name in Chattanooga, I just kept my name. So I wrestled
Mm.
as me. I don't have a stage name.
Yeah.
So how do you suspend disbelief or suspend reality from that name? Because what I do in the ring now goes to who I am as a person. So when I was a
Absolutely.
heel, people were getting it twisted. Like I might be a bad guy in the ring, and now they think I'm a bad guy in real life. So they were starting to blur the lines a little bit. That's the only part I didn't like. But you kind of got to get used to it. If you want to make it these days in wrestling, with everyone knowing what it is, you also have to make them think for some small reason that it is real, that
Yeah.
what you're doing is real. And the best way to do that is to be you turned up and be polarizing. So that's
That's
what I was
right.
doing. And I did that so well that I did it too much and got myself canceled on Twitter and in professional wrestling. So
That's fascinating because like the thing about wrestling that I find so interesting is kind of like what we talked about with the podcast that you do. There's an aspect of improv, but it's collaboration. It's a work in
mhm,
progress, and you need both of the personas to have help people suspend disbelief. But then to understand that becomes your public persona for everything. That's
mhm,
challenging. So how do you, because we
mhm,
talked a little bit about like the struggle after you were injured first when you were in college, but does that
mhm.
resonate with you today? Do you still worry? Does that you still have to decompress when someone is screaming hateful things at you and knowing that maybe they don't really think that, but you have to keep that thing going?
When I was doing it as wrestling, I thought it was funny because I know who I am. If you know who
Mhm.
you are, then it doesn't bother you. Like if you're a bad guy in the ring, but that's the reaction you want. When you're a bad guy, you win when the crowd boos you or hates you or throws something at you or
Mm.
wants to kill you. You're winning. You're doing your job. And the promoters know that, the bookers know that, the wrestlers know that, and that's how you become the wrestler of the year, being a bad guy, right?
That's right.
Um, when you're a good guy and you go out there and the crowd doesn't react, that means you're not over, which means you're not good. Or if you're a good guy and you go out there and the crowd boos, you're probably not coming back. Like that's just how it
Mm.
goes. So I was okay with that. I know that's part of the deal. The part that hurt me a little bit was when I know who I am and the crowd got hateful with me
Mm.
online for something that I said that was like in my wrestling character. And even some of the tweets I'm talking about went viral, bro, like trending top 10 on Twitter for a day
Wow.
because of a comment and an opinion I had about another wrestler while I was injured. And I didn't even have any other social media. Like I'd already deleted Twitter, deleted Instagram, deleted everything because I was kind of done with all of it when after I hurt my PCL. Um,
Yeah.
they found a post from my private Facebook, screenshotted it, and then took it viral on Twitter.
Oh
The number one
man.
hashtag on Twitter at that time was "Who is Gunnar Miller?"
Wow. That
So that
is
hurt me because now I've
that's
got
crazy.
people that had been following me my entire career. At that point, it had been 5 years. My entire career, guys that had helped me get booked on shows, guys that had put me in main events on their shows, guys that had written articles about me about being, the next big prospect, the top guy, all this stuff, guys that rode with me to shows, guys that I rode with the shows, all just bashing me to 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 be on the good side of the drama so that they
Yeah.
could get booked at another show so they could keep getting signed. And it pretty much
Wow.
blackballed me. And then they tried to keep me out. And then there was this one promoter down in Canton, Georgia, Gary Lamb. He wanted to bring me in because he loves controversy. He's a
Yeah.
promoter. He's an event promoter, barbecue and brews in Canton. He's also a pastor in Canton for Action Church. And he said, "Hey man, I want to bring you in if you're up for it." And this was about 18 months after I'd been injured and hadn't been in the ring. And I said, "No, I'm not really into it." And he goes, "Listen, dude, come down here. You can do whatever you want to. Don't worry about anybody." I said, "All right." So I've been
Wow.
down there once a month since I think November of 2019. And the plan was to retire. I was going to retire in October against my buddy Corey Hollis. And then he had a baby about 3 months prior to that. They got pregnant. And he's like, "Dude, I gotta get out myself." And I was like, "Well, I guess I'll keep doing it because my 6-year-old Marcus is in love with pro wrestling, and he's
Yeah,
my number one."
buddy.
Imagine this. Imagine watching wrestling when we were kids, right? And we had our favorite wrestler, Sting, Hogan, whatever. Guess who his favorite wrestler is at 6 years old?
Who's that? There you go. And he can see past the vision of being a heel. He can understand that this is
I'm a
someone
good guy
who,
now.
yeah, you're a good guy now. I didn't see any video clips of you being a good guy. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, so I'm the good guy now. I'm probably the top baby face now at Southern Honor Wrestling in Georgia, and they have ties to like AEW wrestling. So
Yeah.
um, I'm not pursuing wrestling. I'm doing wrestling because Marcus enjoys it, and
Yeah.
anything that puts a smile on his face, I'll do. And it keeps me in shape, halfway decent, because I got to be halfway naked once a month. So
Well, one of the quotes that we talked about before we went live, in the match between you and Matt Riddell, you said is his name? Riddell?
Riddle.
Riddle. I'm so bad with this. Riddle is
You're okay.
escaping sheer uncertainty. That is an amazing thought, because when you get injured in a sport you're doing in college, there's this question of, okay, my identity is tied up in this thing that I do, and I'm not doing it anymore. So what do I do next? And you said you started with freight on the one hand and you did wrestling on the other hand. Let's talk a little bit about freight. So I've been in the business now for about a decade. My father was a roadway guy back in the early 70s. So freight and trucking is in my blood. What made you think, oh, I get yelled at every single day as a wrestler, might as well go to freight and get yelled at even more? What made you draw to transportation?
So, like I said, I literally started wrestling and logistics in the same month, in the same week, within 3 days of each other. So here's how it happened. I played ball with two guys at UTC, one named Nick Davison, who was my roommate and currently my best friend, and the other guy's name was BJ Coleman. He was also from Chattanooga. He signed with the University of Tennessee. Then he transferred to UTC because he's a hometown boy. Great quarterback, got drafted in the 7th round by the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
So, BJ was a great athlete, and they were working at Lipsy Logistics in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And this was a Thursday. No, I'm sorry. This was a Wednesday. I'm leaving on Thursday, flying out on Thursday to go to Orlando for my WWE tryout. This is Wednesday. I just finished up my last D1 training session. I'm sweaty in a tank top. I hit up them. I'm like, "Hey guys, you guys want to go eat before I go down to this tryout?" And they're like, "Yeah, man, sure. Let's take you to eat." I was like, "Cool." It's like, "Meet us at work and then we'll go." So I head over to the Lipsy Logistics in the parking lot. They're like, "Hey man, just come in." I was like, "All right, cool." So I walk in, sweaty tank top, shorts, long hair's a mess, everything. Walk into the building. First person I see, Johnny Jones. Johnny Jones is the president of Lipsy Logistics. I had zero clue. I had went to high school with Johnny's son, Johnny Jones Jr., and we played linebacker together. He was a senior.
Wow.
I was a freshman. He was a big role model of mine when I was a freshman in high school, because you love looking up to the seniors because he was strong, all this stuff. And we had kept in touch. And I'd always loved the Joneses and Johnny. So he walked in, he's like, "Hey man, what's up? Come here, talk to me." So we start talking. He's like, "So what are you going to do?" So I got my tryout. He goes, "Listen, you need a job?" And I was like, "I mean, what is this?" And he goes, "Logistics." And I go, "What is that?" And he goes, "You'd be good at it." And I go, "What do I do?" He goes, "When do you get back?" I said, "Monday." He goes, "Show up on Tuesday." And I was like, what I get paid?" He goes, "We'll talk about it then." I was like, "Okay, I'll be here on Tuesday." So show up on Tuesday, have zero clue what logistics is. Didn't even study it on my way because I had my tryout coming out. I flew to Orlando, came back. I show up. I meet with Steve and Grace. They paid me, $30,000 to come in and be a track and tracer. I didn't know what that was. I sat down with my buddy Nick Davison, who was doing track and trace, and he goes, "This is what you do, man. Here's the system." It looked like freaking Japanese to me, and I'm like, "All right, cool."
Big old green screen, right?
Yeah, whiz on McLeod. And he goes,
Okay.
here's your list of drivers. Call these 20 drivers and see where they're at." And I was like, "Okay." Call my first driver, answers the phone, can barely understand him. He's definitely not from America, right? And I'm like, "Oh, wow." Next driver, I don't even know if the dude spoke English. I was like, what am I? Who are we calling these people
Where
from?
are you? What? Oh my
Yeah, and
gosh.
then obviously got a hold of some guys that English speaking guys, regular guys, and I did that for a while. I really had no clue what I was doing. I was working, but I was training for wrestling. Like I was there
Yeah.
8 hours a day making phone calls, but I wasn't paying attention really to anything. And then that kind of I got moved into like a CSR spot, and then I started setting appointments, and then I went to be a broker, and then I got into tracking. I became the manager of tracking, and then I got into procurement, and then I got into pricing, and then I got into sales. And then as soon as I got into sales, I was like, wait a minute, I know a little bit about all this.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then I had buddies reach out to me. So the guy that trained me in pro wrestling, Josh Massey, his wrestling name was Ace Rockwell. He was in my first and my second match ever. Um, he was at this company called 12 Point Logistics. He was working with his brother. Jordan is one of the VPs, and Jake was a VP at the time. They reached out. I was like, "Hey man, you want a job?" I was like, "No, I'm good." And then they reached out again. About January 2020. I said, "I'll listen to you. What's up?" Go over there. We have a conversation. They offer me. I think about it. I'm extremely nervous to even tell Johnny and Lipsy about it because I love those guys. And I bring it up, and they give me, their best wishes and say, "Hey, man, you're free. You do whatever you need to do. We're not coming after nothing. You go do what you need to do. We appreciate your time here. If anything happens, call us."
That's
And
awesome.
dude, left on great terms and got into freight, and here I am selling, man. So now June 2014 to now, I've been doing professional wrestling and logistics for the exact amount of time.
Well, the thing about, I mean, I figure people can get out of wrestling, but at least with trucking, once you're here in this space, you will never escape. And it goes down generations. Like this is all the things. What I love about supply chain these days is that the product that people buy and the supply chain that gets you that product are now the same thing. And everyone is
Mhm.
interested in understanding supply chain. So you were in the weeds during COVID-19. How did that change the way that you had been doing what you were doing before?
Yeah, man. So, and I'd never sold. Like, okay, so when I first came out of college, I sold cars for like 2 months and then quit because that was stupid. And then, I sold like nutritional supplements, but that was easy. I would just tell them, there's like, "Hey, man, how do you get in shape?" I was like, "Drink the stuff that's in this bottle." That
That's
was all
right.
right. But then when I got into like logistics, brokering sales is different than like going out and shipper sales, right? That
Mhm.
going out and grabbing customers is a completely different ballgame. But I'm glad I did the brokering aspect because I know what operations does. Helps you sell easier. I think everyone should know track and trace, operations, all that stuff before you even get in sales. It just helps. So getting in sales, man, I didn't know what I was doing, and I just happened to jump into sales literally 2 weeks before COVID hit. Well,
Oh, wow.
fortunately enough for me, I was able to land a pretty decent customer on my second day on the job.
Good for you.
And that customer ended up being, our top customer here at 12 Point Logistics. And with that partnership that has been mutually beneficial for them and for us, we have grown our company to what it is today. Now, it's not all in that customer, but it was the rocket ship and the foundation to allow us to grow at the pace that we were able to. And we've been smart with it. And from that time, we've went from 4 employees to now we're at 19 employees, and we went
That's
from doing
awesome.
$1 million a year to last year we did a little over 17, and we're probably going to be pushing 25 to 30 this year.
What makes me so excited about that story you told is at first you cut your teeth in the trenches of this. Like when I started with
Hmm.
my father's business in the trucking industry, I was learning how to do AP work in Great Plains and then billing in TMT. And you learn the
Hmm.
systems, you learn how things work, and then you understand how the business operates. And then when you go into sales, you know these things. You know what the barriers and the objections are. And because you have that foundation of how things work, you can work with big companies, big customers. And what you threw in there is partnership. Because that's what these things are. I mean, you have to
Hmm.
have a value proposition for your customers, your suppliers, and your employees. And it's all about partnership. So, what I think people, if they're watching this now, that is solid gold and how to be successful in any industry is learn
Hmm.
patience and then ultimately look at how you can partner with somebody to mutually grow the business. Do you like sales? Is it fun? Are you enjoying it?
Man, I love it. I'm not an operator.
Mhm.
I'm not. Let me rephrase that. I operate things that I want to operate. I don't like just being told what to do. So sales allows you to kind of, I think of it as like running your own business. Like
Yeah.
you are the business. You got to go out there and do like if you're in sales, your main pay is your commission or your bonuses, unless you're at a company that just pays you a real high salary to not do anything. But so you got to go out and get it, and you got to figure out how to get good, and you got to figure out how to get good by getting told no a lot, or getting doors slammed in your face, or people hanging up on you on the phone, and then you eventually kind of figure it out. And guess what? You also got to train. So when I started treating sales like I was an athlete, like a professional athlete, like how I
Yes.
would do it from college, that's when the game changed, man. So I started doing Cardone University. I started actually when I was at Lipsy, but I continued doing it in my transition over here to 12 Point by myself. I bought my own membership. It was like a single purchase, like $100 a month or whatever. And I was doing the trainings. I was watching stuff on video. I was recording myself. I was videoing myself. I was working out my scripts, trying to get it, figure it out to where it didn't sound like a script. Then I went to bullet points. I went to Spark Notes, and now it's just like, I got it.
Right.
And then I came over, and then I learned like email selling, and then I learned social selling, which I'm still dabbling in right now. But the email selling I got pretty good at, as far as like cold emailing. And that's how I would get the most of my inbound leads. And I would have cold emails go out, and if any reply came back, they got a phone call immediately. So I would treat cold emails responses like an inbound lead. And then that's kind of how I gathered my customer base. And I really enjoy it. I love that it's all numbers, it's all analytics, it's all repetition, and you can get rusty if you stop doing it for a day. So I train. The first thing I do every morning is I go through training. The last thing I do at night is I go through training. So I've just flipped my process. Instead of being so weightlifting, fitness focused, and sports focused, I'm just half that, and then the other half is all sales, which all goes hand in hand with mindset and my ability to be physical and work.
Well, I just like the sales. I've been doing sales in different iterations for most of my career, and it's really just persuasion. So when I was an attorney practicing in the courtroom, it's about how do I communicate something to somebody who may not even want to understand it or want to listen to it. And what I think your wrestling has shown is that there's this improvisational piece to it, and it is this thing where if you like that improvisational side, sales can be really fun. It does suck when people are like, get out of my building. Cause like I was going to companies directly in person and putting on a safety vest and sneaking through and saying, hey, can I help you out with X, Y, and Z? And sometimes they'd be receptive and sometimes they weren't. But I like that you see this path of taking the skills that you learned early on and then turning that into actionable insights to become a more effective salesperson, which I want to transition now. So we talked about that Twitter controversy, and I know that's affected your life significantly. And of course, I mean the thing about the saunas. So tell me, what is your routine? What's your routine? And what got you into this sauna thing?
So a perfect routine for me. And listen, I'm not the guy that's going to get on YouTube and tell you this is my millionaire routine. I do it every single day. I never mess up. I'm always perfect. And you have to do exactly this to be successful. That's not real life. On a perfect day, my perfect routine is I'm up at 3:15. I fast my workout, so I'm up at 3:15. I head to the gym. I usually get to the gym at about 3:45. So that puts me in the parking lot. The gym doors do not open until 4 a.m. So for 15 minutes, or from however long I drive to the doors open, I'm listening to an audiobook of some sort. Taking notes, journaling, whatever I need to do. Doors open at 4. I walk into the gym. I get one energy drink, which is usually like a Ghost or a Reign or a Total War or whatever it might be, about 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine. My eyes are still barely open because I don't do anything prior to that. I walk into the gym or walk into the sauna. I sit into the sauna for about 10 minutes while I'm drinking my drink. I slam the drink, wakes me up. I go out there, I work out, depending on what it is. I still go a little heavy these days, but not as heavy as I used to because I'm just getting old and who cares about how much you lift. I'm just trying to look good.
And it gets worse, man. I can do my own body weight. I'm doing like 185, not too many challenges, but no, it's rough.
Yeah.
What's the temperature of that sauna that you're in for 10 minutes?
So there's 2 gyms I go to. It's like a franchise, both the same place, but 2 different locations. If I go to the one I usually go to, it's between 190 and about 205. If I go to the other one, it's probably between like 175 and 190. That's why I don't go there much. I'll go there and lift, but as far as the sauna goes, I go to the other one. So 190 to 200 usually, and it's hot, man. It's a big difference. So, and the key is you got to get in there and you got to sit on the top step, right? So it's
That's
like
the hottest, isn't
in
it?
the sauna. You got to sit in the very far back right, closest to the coals, and you got to sit in the top because that's going to be the hottest heat. right? So when I first go in there, I just I have my clothes on. 10 minutes doesn't really break that much of a sweat first thing in the morning because they just turned the sauna on. All right, so it's
Okay.
warming up kind of. So it's a very comfortable warm up. I'm stretching, get my mind right, drinking my drink, go out there work out. Now, by the time I'm done working out, which is about an hour, I usually put my watch for 60 minutes, and then I do a lot of time under tension training these days. So like I'm trying to hit a muscle group for a certain amount of time, not necessarily amount of reps or weight or whatever, like a certain amount of time. And then after that's over, I go grab two 42-gram protein core power drinks, core power elite chocolate.
Oh my
I
goodness.
slam one. So there's 42. First thing I had for nutrition, I slam one 42 grams of protein, and then I go get in the sauna. Now at that point in the sauna, I set my timer for 30 minutes. So when it goes off at 30 minutes, I try to see how much longer I can stay in there. Now my body temperature's already up, my heart rate's already up, so it's a little bit harder to stay in there after you've already done all that. But usually I'm in there between 30 and 40 minutes, and this is where you get real sweaty, and this is where it gets very uncomfortable. So this is where I think you're right. You're like, this does suck. Because when you're in
Yeah.
there at minute 20 and you look at your watch or your phone and you go, oh man, I got 10 more minutes of this. How have I only done this for half the amount of time? And then you just got to figure it out. So now you start pacing in there. You're up there walking, you're stretching. Now it's getting harder because your heart
You're
rate's getting up a little
torturing
bit higher.
yourself.
You're torturing yourself, right? You're uncomfortable because that's how you get better, Matthew. You get better when you're uncomfortable.
So, okay,
So
that's
that's
a
what I
good
do.
point. Okay, that's a good point because the temperature to boil water, and I'm not a scientist, I'm not like Dr. DeMarco, but I think it's around 212 degrees. And if that's where the temperature of boiling water happens, you're in a very warm space. You could cook ribs in that temperature over a prolonged period of time. Do you jump in a cold pool? Can you do that? Because like that's what I would want to do. I want to be okay. I'm uncomfortable. Let's cool down. Is that a thing you
So
can
I
do or no?
would. I would, there are gyms out there, not unfortunately not in Chattanooga. And my end goal, not my end goal, my goal eventually in town is to have the best gym in Chattanooga, like a
Hmm.
premier gym in Chattanooga. But anyways, so like in that gym, I would want a sauna to where you can walk out of the sauna and go to cold therapy because that's the best
Yeah.
thing for you. We talk about the benefits of the sauna, right? Yes, there is, but there's even more benefits to adding in cold therapy. And if
Oh,
you
I
can
used to
get a
do
certain
cold baths
temperature
after
and just
races. Absolutely.
I would give I would give anything for something like that to be, or even like a box you walk into where it's just cold, like a freezer.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it was, I wish there was a way to have both of those, because that would be the best case scenario. And I'm just too lazy. I'm not about to go to my house and fill up a tub of water and
Nice.
ice just to jump into. So, but
Well,
I do I do cold showers. So after I get home from the gym, the first 5 minutes in the shower, I just put it on as cold as it can go, kind of to cool my body off and to knock off the sweat and the heat and just to kind of be uncomfortable again, right?
yeah,
And to wake me
absolutely.
up.
Why not?
But
You're already unhappy. Might as
they
well.
there's a guy, Andy Frisella. I don't know if you're familiar. He is so he calls himself he's what is it, the Mr. CEO, Mr. Real AF or AF CEO or something like that. Anyways,
Hmm.
he's got a company, a nutrition company, but he's a big influencer online. And what he does is he has this thing called 75 Hard, and it's a challenge. It's 75 days, and you have to do two 45-minute workouts per day. One of them has to be outside. You got to be in the shower for 5 minutes in a cold bath. You have to stick to a diet. You have to read like 10 pages in a book, and you have to some other things. I do aspects of that.
Okay.
One of them is the diet, the workout, and all that stuff. But I don't do all of it because I don't like getting stuck into like a challenge. I just like doing things that are sustainable, and I try to do that as many times as I possibly can in a year.
Well,
I'm not going to say I'm perfect.
I hope that any people, investors or VCs that are in the Chattanooga area are listening to Gunner here because there likely is an appetite for a different type of customized gym. I think that is a very interesting path. I suspect give it 5 or 10 years and you will have that gym that you want with your name on there. I think that would be, we got a question. We got a comment here from Abby. She's tried the 75 Hard so many times. I have not tried it. I'll be perfectly honest. I gave up working out when I left the running around the ovals. There's no reason to keep doing it. I'm not chasing anything anymore. I just
Well, I
restrict
mean
calories.
that could be walking outside with your
Yeah.
dogs, or that could be stretching or yoga or sitting in the sauna or whatever it might be. It's just 45-minute sessions of something to get your heart rate up, and then
Absolutely.
sticking to a halfway decent diet. That diet could be 3 square meals, or that diet could be fasting, or that diet could be, just don't eat sugar. Whatever your diet wants to be, it doesn't have to be a specific diet. Nobody's following you around, keeping up with you. And
I
then it's,
just wake up and
listen to
get a
something
9 volt.
motivational.
I get a 9 volt battery and I put it to my tongue and I'm like, I'm awake. I'm ready. I can take on
Get the
the
party
day.
started. Let's go. Let's go. That's what we need.
So, okay, we have gone through a lot of things in this conversation. What I want to kind of impact with the folks who've had a chance to listen to us is the success that you have seen in life and in your profession is marked by adversity. This is the thing that so many people struggle with, I think, is that we all kind of think that it shouldn't be so hard. And when we get knocked down or we have some adversity, it's easier to go like, I don't think this is what I want to do. And I love what you've been able to accomplish by taking that moment in your college career and saying, okay, this isn't what it's going to be. We got to figure out something different. And then get
Mhm.
into freight and wrestling simultaneously. You are someone who likes to face punishment. I think that's probably
Mhm.
pretty clear. What is it that's been most surprising for you in either wrestling or in the business of freight?
Oh, great question. Great question, man. I would say this, when I got into this career, when I say this career, I'm talking about like wrestling and logistics. Wrestling was plan A and logistics was a very distant plan B. It was just to pay the bills to get me to wrestling, right? Um, and when I did that, I mean, I ran hard. I was working, logistics. I was working 40,
It
50 hours a week.
doesn't
And
stop.
then I was wrestling locally on Thursdays, and then I would travel after work on Fridays, hit a show, and then I'd be gone all weekend, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes working 2, 3 matches a day. And then, get back Monday morning right before work, go to the gym. I'm talking about driving back straight to the gym, no sleep, and then go straight to work, and then not get my first sleep really from the weekend till Monday night. And I did that for really, really hard for 2 years, but really, 3. Um, and then when I got a chance to slow down, when I hurt my knee, tore my PCL, and I had a break for the first time ever in my life. Like I started playing sports when I was 4, and it was always summer ball, something sport, something training. My only vacations were beach trips to play baseball. Like that's college, wrestling, all this stuff. I had a chance to slow down, and then I realized, man, logistics maybe that's the ticket.
Yeah.
So then I start looking at like, what are these guys making in WWE? Like the guys that get signed to developmental, because that's what I would get signed to, a developmental contract. What are they making? What are the guys at AEW making as developmental? What are the guys that are like making money, making a living wrestling making? And then I go, oh, I can do that easy with logistics.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I have, and now I'm at a point where I don't want to get signed because I'm not taking a couple steps backwards to chase a dream that, is much more unrealistic than what I'm doing when I could blow what I'm doing out of the water. Just doesn't make sense to me. And I've just learned more business. And now if I had to do it all over again, I'd have done it completely different. I did so much different, but I didn't. And here I am. So now I can do what I'm doing different, which is this in podcasting, parlaying my wrestling experience and that avenue and moving forward.
One of the things I think resonates with me was I practiced law and it was a horrifying experience. It was not bad in the sense of I didn't feel good about myself, but I didn't feel fulfilled. And I thought this is what it's always going to be like. And I wish I could go back to myself in those days and say, dude, like it's going to be fine. It's not going to be this awful thing. And I talk to so many people in freight today, and some people get worried about talk of recession. People get worried about all sorts of different things. Would you approach somebody who's like, man, I'm having like the worst week of my life? Because you've had these tough times. What kind of things would you tell somebody are ways to deal with the stress of all these challenges we see in front of us?
I think everyone's a little bit different. But obviously, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and you got to go, what decisions have I made to put me in the situation that I'm in right now? Have I really made the decision that I should make every time that an opportunity arises? Probably not. Most likely not. Like what did you just think about at that second? What about right now? Like, are you thinking about positive things? Are you thinking about the right things? So I think it's a big mindset shift, obviously. And a lot of people don't like listening to personal development, motivational, inspirational stuff because they're like, what's that do? That ain't gonna do anything for you. Well, what's better? Watching the news? Are you going to watch the news and look at, all these school shootings and these
Mhm.
wars and the diseases and stuff, that's going to put you in a good mood? I don't think so. So if you can remove yourself from the mainstream media as much as you possibly can without being completely out of touch, I think that's probably the first step, and just start thinking about what you need to do and get at that tunnel vision, and maybe, separate yourself from everyone and just go away and work in silence, and then get yourself on the right path, then start bringing yourself back. I think that's one thing that people could do. But, at the end of the day, man, you just gotta kind of look at yourself in the mirror and just evaluate and audit your life, and really look at everything on paper, and just see how it is. Treat yourself like a business. If you're not treating yourself like a multi-million-dollar business, you're never going to be a multi-million-dollar person. If you're treating yourself like a $15,000 business, guess what, buddy? You're going to be a $15,000 person. So don't expect to be driving, this Pinto, and then you're just going to arrive to an Escalade with the keys and get it one day. It's not going to happen. Like, some people get lucky, sure. And guess what? That money goes right away. As soon as they win that money or the lottery, that money goes right away. Because guess what? They're idiots. They're idiots. And I've been an idiot.
Now,
and guess what? We all fail. We fail to success. We
right.
fail to success. So if you haven't failed, it's coming, and it's coming bad. Just fail at little things all the way up.
What I found as being a father has really changed a lot of the ways I think about things. For most of my adult life, my growing up was everything's fine. Like, you don't want to bring your problems to mom and dad. You compartmentalize, you internalize, and you deal with it all yourself. And I have found as a father, being able to talk with my kids about things that make them unhappy, the stresses they have. It's okay not to be okay. We're all suffering, and sometimes we suffer alone, but sometimes we all are suffering at some level. And being more open about just understanding your feelings and not trying to drink the problem away or smoke the problem away, or to your point of escaping into something else. I will say that things like Fortnite and Minecraft are phenomenal, and I love playing those with my kids. But that's one of the things I find just being a father gives you that viewpoint of, you want to help people understand the stress and how to cope with it. Because we've been there. Like, you're 31, you're ancient like I am. The things that people that are entering this industry now are facing, they have no idea. We've been through several recessions in our lifetime. It's only going to keep happening.
Yeah, and I think people, they get scared because they're so worried about tomorrow. Like, and you got a bunch of people that aren't talking about it. Like, dude, it's coming. Something's coming. And I don't understand why people are acting like it's not, when they know deep down, they've seen this. It's cyclical. History is cyclical. It's coming. It's just a matter of how prepared are you? You know why these people that are like, the elite, the top level guys, your top business guys, they're not talking about it? Because they're preparing for it.
That's right.
They're already getting everything that they're setting. They're playing chess. They're already 5, 10, 15 moves ahead. And when it comes, they're ready. The ones that don't prepare for it, the ones that are not ready, those are going to be the ones that's, here's 100 layoffs. Here's 200 layoffs. Here's 1,000 layoffs. And they're just going to get rid of all the people that are expenditures. And those are the people that just got hired, or the people that have been there for 15 to 20 years, and they've just kind of been there doing what they've been doing. And then they're going to get rid of the people that just aren't good at their jobs, been there for a few years. And they're going to keep the studs. It's going to happen at every company. I think US Express laid off like 100 people, and they're terrible at that when it comes to like laying off large chunks of people. But I think the banks will be the biggest layoff over the course of the next 12 months. I think I think the banks will be the biggest layoff.
We saw Carvana lay off 2,500 people. I mean, this is the idea of, if you fail to plan, you can plan on failing. And there will always be opportunity for folks that are focused on building relationships and building value that'll be okay. They'll be okay. And there's some that won't. But at the end of the day, this is a big industry. It will always come back, because it always does. We've seen these things play out before. Well, Gunnar, we're getting close to the hour mark. I want to be respectful of your time. Where can people find you if they were looking to say, where can I see more about Gunnar Miller? Where do they got to go?
Well, I've got a few things that I do. Obviously, some of the guys that are in here, they come around to the stuff that I do here on LinkedIn as well. I love LinkedIn, man. That's awesome. Absolutely love LinkedIn. I'm a big Gary Vee fan as well, so I've been listening to his stuff, and he's always ahead of the curve. Dude, this dude was pushing LinkedIn like 5 years ago. Like, I wish I'd have been talking about it then, because I've had this profile since college. LinkedIn's great, so you can check me out on LinkedIn. I'm right here, Gunnar Miller. You can see me tagged in here, the People's Captain. I do the Chat with Gunnar podcast. So it is dubbed the CWG podcast. It is on YouTube. It is on Spotify. It is on Apple iTunes. It's on all the podcast platforms. It's on Rumble for all you conservative guys out there.
Oh, my wife
It's
wants me
on-
to get on that. That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, the reason it is because I have it to where every video of mine that goes to YouTube just transfers to Rumble. So I don't go on there, but it just automatically transfers. YouTube obviously is my main page where it goes to. My biggest platform right now is LinkedIn. I clip everything on TikTok. I clip everything on Instagram stories and Instagram. And I also have a Facebook page, CWG Podcast on Facebook. Everything gets posted on all those spots. And it's really cool, man. So come along the journey. You can catch me June 10th in Canton, Georgia, in my very first death match. What's that mean, Gunner? Great question. Glad you asked it. That means glass. That means tables, hammers, screws, skewers, blood, sweat, respect. And I promise you that all those things are going to happen. And if you can't get there live, you can go to iwtv.com and you can purchase the live event stream right there. I believe it's iwtv.com. If not, it's iwtv.something. And that's Independent Wrestling TV Network. And you can go check it out there. And you can also check out all the previous stuff I've done there. I believe it's like $9.99 for the month. Or just hit me up and I'll give you a passcode.
Dude, that's phenomenal. I will say I deeply discourage anything with glass and all of these things, but I know that you are a professional, so I'm sure you'll be doing great. Gunnar, thank you for joining me. As always, it's been a pleasure to have you, and I look forward to watching more of your stuff, and I look forward to more Twitter controversies between us as the time goes on. Again, thank you for joining me. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I am so blessed with people who have watched our programs and continue to find value. We're only in episode 4. We have more to do. Thank you for watching and commenting and engaging. We will always be looking for more ways to keep you entertained. And as always, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. And then we end the broadcast. I just press the button and then it goes away. So we're done.